Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking into the webinar. I'm Jas with REC, and my team and I have been bringing exclusive investment opportunities to the KEYSPIRE members for approximately 4 years. We're so excited about today's investment because it's an opportunity where you as an investor can hold today's value in Toronto for something that's going to be built out in about 2.5 years from now. It also allows you to not have to qualify for financing today because nothing's going to be built for about 2.5 years. When the building gets built, REC, to all KEYSPIRE members, is going to rent out the unit for you as well as manage it for you for 2 full years at no cost. So it's a fully turnkey investment. The pricing for these units is approximately $400,000 to $500,000, almost unheard of in Toronto's market. This is Keeley Condos that I'm standing in front of today. I'm going to bring in my friend Charles Jaque, who is the VP of Keeley Condos. We're going to speak a little bit about the 3 major parts of due diligence that REC does before bringing out an opportunity. One being what incentives are being offered to investors. The first 2 points are very critical when it comes to pre-construction condos, is obviously the area where the building's going to be built, as well as the builder. We want to make sure that they have a fantastic reputation, and as well as we want to make sure that their fit and finishes are up to par for what a tenant would be looking for. So stay tuned. We're going to be going and sitting down with Charles Jaque. If you want to get the numbers in terms of the pro forma, you can go right to the end of this webinar, or feel free to give me a call directly at 416-999-8850. Or if you have questions, email us at info@reccanada.com. See you guys soon. Hey guys, welcome back. And I brought my friend here, Charles Jaque, who is the VP of Keeley Condos. So as REC does due diligence on an investment opportunity, when it comes to pre-construction, there's 3 things that we look at. First is the location. Obviously, we can't pick up the building and move it. Second is the builder. We want to make sure we're not the guinea pigs, so to speak, for the builder and investing into something that they've never done before. Third being the incentives for the investor, and that's something I'm going to talk to you guys later. But to help me talk through the location and the builder is my buddy, Charles Jaque. Thanks for joining me today, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So as you heard me mention it to our viewers, Charles, we really like to look at the location as well as the builder. Talk to us a little bit about both, man.
Sure. TAS Design Build actually has this philosophy on choosing locations for where they're developing. And over the past 20 years, when they first started getting into condos, because before that they were doing luxury homes, ultra luxury homes, they were focusing on neighborhoods right before they would turn over and start to turn over. For example, in King West, it used to be all industrial.
Which is like right downtown Toronto.
Right down, one of the hottest neighborhoods currently in Toronto.
Yeah.
But in 2001, it wasn't. In 2001, it was industrial, right? And it was warehouses. And slowly that turned over, and now it's really popular. So, but TAS was one of the first buildings in with their first building. And they built this boutique building designed for end users, focusing on quality finishes. And anyone who invested in early on did extremely well. And they took that same philosophy and they continued to roll it out. And so then they focused on Yonge and Finch, there was no development at Yonge and Finch in the early 2000s. And now it's like a whole city center. There's office, there's mixed use, there's retail, there's services. And again, they did this boutique building designed for end users, less supply on the market, and in the overall grand scheme of things, people are taking better care of the building. And then they moved into the Junction, which is an area full of artists and hipsters that's getting more popular, the classic gentrification story, and where values have really started to come up, and where it's well connected by transit. And then they moved into Kingston Road and Victoria Park. And now their latest project, the Keeley, is in the Downsview neighborhood. And the Downsview neighborhood has been getting a ton of press over the past year about the amount of potential. And we're right on the verge right now of a tremendous amount of change in the Downsview neighborhood.
So I love the fact that, someone can Google all the buildings that TAS has done, because we know what their fit and finishes are going to be. We know what the reputation is. And now talking about the Downsview area and why we're so excited to bring Keeley Condos to our investors. Why Downsview? Like, why did they choose this area?
If you Google Downsview, you're going to see a lot of hits from newspaper articles recently, just within the past year or so, talking about how people have been planning great things for Downsview for years. And Downsview is really on the verge of some major changes right now. So the city has already put in place plans for 5 growth areas surrounding Downsview Park. And we recently last year just had the sale of the former Bombardier lands, the Downsview Airport, which is a huge piece of land.
How big is it exactly?
375 acres, bigger than Canada's Wonderland.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can fit like 5 major downtown neighborhoods into it. Like essentially we have the potential here for an entire new city core. And you know, when you take away the airport, you also take away the height restriction. So those 5 neighborhoods that I mentioned around the park, those are 5 neighborhoods that the city is planning to have 42,000 new jobs and residences in.
It's so important that you made mention of that, Charles, because as an investor, you're always wondering, well, who's going to be living in these units, A, B, who's my tenants going to be? Well, they're going to be majority are young professionals. We have 145,000 people coming into the Greater Toronto area year over year for the next 10 years. And they're going to be coming into areas where where it's close to transit, as well as it's, you know, a minute drive to all major highways.
And that's us here. We're a 15-minute walk to the Downsview TTC station and the GO train station. And we're just down the street from the 401. We've got a bus stop right out front. So if you don't want to walk to the GO train or the subway, you can just take the bus right up. And, you know, actually that subway station was part of the subway extension. And so the city of Toronto spent over $1 billion and they went over budget extending the subway line. And it happens to be the subway line with the lowest ridership on the whole TTC network, which actually makes it a target for redevelopment, because the way that the city pays for major infrastructure projects like that is by increasing density, increasing the amount of employees and jobs and workers surrounding that subway station that can pay for the ticket fares, and companies that will pay for property taxes, and buildings, condo buildings and residences and homes that will also pay property taxes. So, but because of that airport, there's a height restriction in place. So with the redevelopment potential of the airport, when you take away the height restriction, you're now talking about an entire high density redevelopment cluster surrounding the transit node, which is just 15 minutes from us. You're also talking about lifting the height restriction on those mid-rise buildings across those 5 neighborhoods. So we go from talking about 42,000 new jobs and residences to talk across mid-rise buildings to now talking about how many people can we fit now into high-rise buildings? How much is that going to change the area? How many more jobs are going to be coming to the area?
And it's so important to make mention that when you're buying pre-construction condos and investing into an area, you want to be there first, because as more buildings come, the values of what you purchased first are just going to go up higher.
More people actually brings more services, brings more restaurants, more specialization. And it's something that we've seen with Toronto, because Toronto's been known as like the condo capital of North America. And as you're adding more density and more population, you know, some people think you add more supply to the market, it brings the prices down. It's the reverse, right? Because the city's growing and it's becoming a more interesting place to live. There's more jobs, there's more people to meet, there's more social interaction, more opportunity with careers. And so it's like this, you know, self-fulfilling circle. That's self-reinforcing circle.
And I know someone who's watching is thinking, well, it's Toronto. These condos have to be going for $1 million because everything's priced at $1 million in Toronto. It's just not true. Like this here, you can get a unit at Keeley Condos starting in the low 400s with parking and a locker. And to be able to get something starting in the low 400s, having it rented out, in fact, REC is going to be renting out and managing the unit for our investors at no cost, okay, for the first 2 years.
That's an amazing incentive.
Right, because it's a fully turnkey investment for our investors now. To have the rent cover your expenses and not have any negative cash flow, have, you know, approximately on the low end, about 5% year over year passive appreciation. And for someone who's been doing this for years and years, you know, we've been seeing anywhere from 8 to 10% passive appreciation. But to be able to get that and start in the low 400s, it's almost unheard of right now in Toronto.
That's right. And to be this well connected and this close to the city, this close to transit.
I wanted you to make mention also of where we're situated here, right at Keeley Condos. Talk a little bit about the views.
The views are amazing. So that's one of the things about this development, this project. We're talking about the amount of growth and the amount of, therefore, construction that's going to be happening in the surrounding area. But that's all about a 15-minute walk away. We're actually right in front of one of the areas of the park that's totally protected. You've got a 9-acre pond in front, so when you're looking east, you've got water views and you've got park views. We're donating a park to the city on the south side. So we've got this park to the south with unobstructed views. We've got a beautiful ravine out the back on the west side as well. And then north to the neighborhood is unobstructed as well. And as you know, when you're looking at new communities like this, you very often only have like one direction that's unobstructed, and the rest of the views are blocked. So the overall resale values for the building are going to be higher. Like you can be the one person with that one great view, but if everyone else's views are terrible in the building, it's going to bring it down. So here we have a boutique building. The developer's putting in more focus on the end user, and you've got beautiful unobstructed views all the way around for all the units, essentially.
When you say end user, elaborate a little bit about that, because some of our guys might not know exactly what you mean about that.
Well, you can see it's a mid-rise building. Not everybody wants to live in a tower, but everyone's okay living in a mid-rise building. So that attracts a wider audience. The other thing is that they'll put in higher end features. Like we're putting in a 4-pipe fan coil system, which is a luxury heating and cooling system that you'll see at the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons private residences. It's quieter, it's stronger, it's more convenient. You can use it whenever you want. They're putting in an ERV system, so your fresh air comes from the outside. Normally in a condo, your fresh air comes from the hallway. So if somebody's smoking a cigar or cooking something, burning something, it comes into your condo pretty quickly. So here it's more comfort. You have your own fresh air right from the outside. You have less disturbance in terms of other people's odors in the building. They're putting higher end appliances into the building as well. You've actually got a lot of selection of suites that are 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, and those are good neighbors to have in the building. They've got gas lines on their terraces for the really big terraces. So that's a good building to be in terms of an end user building, as opposed to just all micro condos.
I found it interesting that what Taz is doing by focusing more on end users, still allowing investors into the building, is that from an investor's perspective, it keeps the values higher.
It does.
Right? There's not as many condos going to be coming up on the market because most people are picturing themselves here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, because there is larger units for those end users that are going to be growing their families and want to stay in this area.
Yeah, it's amazing how investors actually tend to do better in end user buildings because, like you said, there's less trading on the market, less supply available on the market.
Well, I mean, majority of my portfolio specifically consists of pre-construction condo investment. And the reason is because you're not managing a home with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenants. I don't need to worry about the roof. I don't need to worry about the furnace. That's all done by the property manager and the condo corporation with a condo. I, as an investor, have to worry about my 500 to 600 square foot unit, one tenant. And because of the fact that with the new law and new rules in place, even the fact that we're purchasing after November 2018, we can also increase rents every single year as well, right?
Right. And you have, for a limited time, secured this incredible deposit structure with the developer. It's only 15% over about a year and a half, and it's in 2.5% installments. And the developer is about to start construction in the building in a few months. So there's a very short window of opportunity where they've extended this incentive for you.
Right.
And
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well done.
Yeah.
Good negotiation skills.
Thanks.
and so that's really unique. In having only 15% deposit over a year and a half, and then 5% on occupancy, and that's all you really put into the deal. And in the meantime, you're sitting across from what's been coined as Canada's largest urban renewal project with the park. So as the area changes, you've already got the 42,000 new jobs and residences coming to the area, and everything else on top of that is just a bonus, right? The plans for the airport, the city's talking about employment. They want to protect jobs and protect employment, but they're talking about high density. Where else in the city do we have clusters of high density office towers? Not many other places.
Other than the financial district downtown, right?
Which is extremely expensive.
Exactly.
So they're talking about starting a new financial business district. And if you're thinking internationally, where else do you see that? Well, Canary Wharf, for example, London, England, right? So, and if you think about if the city has its way and you get that much employment, all those people want to live close to work. They don't want to commute. So they're going to be looking at the Keeley, and that's very good for anyone who owns here. Now, the owners of the land that bought the land from Bombardier, they bought the airport. So the CEO of Bombardier said, we only use 10% of the airport. There's no point in us continuing to use this space. We'll sell it. They got $817 million. They're adding that to their balance sheets. And now they're going to be leasing at Toronto Pearson Airport. So they have until for the next 5 years to continue operating out of the Downsview Airport. And after that, they're gone, which means that PSP, who's the buyer of the land, they have the next 5 years to start the redevelopment process of the airport. And when they do that, it lifts the height restrictions. And that's when you start to see the growth from the 42,000 jobs and across those 5 neighborhoods increase. Plus, you've got that 375 acres that is the airport of potential growth and mixed-use development
and that's
or
where
employment.
And that's where the money's made in this type of investment, right? Because you're buying now, holding, and not worrying about putting a full 20% down, but allowing it to appreciate while more people come into the area.
That's right. You're not paying a mortgage. You're not paying any costs. It's just the deposit. You lock it in.
You don't even have to worry about the mortgage financing right now because you're not transferring title until the building gets built.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's right.
Charles, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back. Jas here again. I'm going to now be going through the pro forma for the pre-construction opportunity at Keeley Condos. So for this example, we're going to look at the average priced unit at $499,900, and that's for a 1-bedroom plus den. Approximate square footage is 566 square feet. As you can see here, the monthly rent is $2,400. We've obviously added a 1% vacancy rate. That works out to be $24, leaves us with a monthly gross operating income of $2,382. Now let's go through the expenses line by line. And again, guys, at any time for more clarification, feel free to give me a shout at 416-999-8850. You have property taxes at $259. Insurance, which has already been set up through our friends at BrokerLink, is $25. Condo fees, and for our friends outside of the province, you also see and hear those as strata fees, which is $317. We've also added $24 a month for repairs and maintenance. So the total net operating income is $625. Which now gives us a net operating income of $1,757. If we take our 20% down payment on the purchase price of $499,900, our monthly mortgage payment with an interest rate of 3.25% amortized over 30 years, gives us a monthly mortgage payment of $1,735, which leaves us with an estimated net monthly cash flow of $21 a month. The nice thing with this investment is that all your expenses, as you can see, are covered by the rental income. So nothing out of pocket. And what we want to look at next, obviously, is other ways that we're winning when it comes to investing into a pre-construction condo. So we've had the passive appreciation of 5% year over year. And guys, for anyone in the city of Toronto, we all know that we've been seeing closer to 8.5% to 10% year over year. And yes, to our out of province friends, you did hear that properly. It's close to 8 to 10% year over year, but we like to be ultra conservative when we're working on numbers. We work with 5% year over year. So for the first year, we're going to be seeing approximately $24,995 a year in passive appreciation. Once the building gets built, our principal recapture, so that's the amount that our mortgage and our principal is being paid down, is $8,036. Total cash required to close, okay, which includes your down payment, 20% of the purchase price, $99,000 and change. When we're purchasing pre-construction condos, there's development charges that are all due on closing with some minor adjustments. That works out to be, for a 1-bedroom plus den, $10,500. Legal fees with our friends at Miller Thompson and Kyle Hampson, that works out to be $1,500. Land transfer taxes, because you'll be purchasing in Toronto, there is 2 land transfer taxes, one for what we usually call Welcome to Ontario and Welcome to Toronto. That is $12,900. A total cash required for this investment is $124,930. Now, with pre-construction condos, as mentioned earlier in the webinar, your down payment is spread out over a almost 2.5-year period for this investment. So the nice thing is that not all of the $124,000 is due right away. It's spread out again over a 2.5-year period. So for this project, the deposit structure is as follows. You'd have a 2.5% payment due in 30 days, 2.5% due in 90 days, 2.5% of the purchase price due in 6 months, and then you have 2.5% due in about 340 days, and then a payment of 2.5% in 540 days, and then your final payment is due on occupancy, which is 5%. Okay, so I know I went over a lot of numbers there. I just wanted to go over that again. The deposits, the down payment structure, it's spread out, which is really neat because it allows you to be flexible with your capital. So 2.5% in 30 days, 2.5% in 90 days, 2.5% in 6 months, 2.5% in 1 year, 2.5% in 450 days, 2.5% in 540 days, and then the final 5%, which takes you to a total of 20%, because as an investor, we need to put down a total of 20%, is due on occupancy, which is slated for July 2021. And so, as mentioned again earlier in the webinar, that's one of the major advantages of investing in pre-construction, that you're able to really lay out that down payment over a long period of time. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner, the number that we all like to look at, what is going to be our return for year one? We're going to have a total year one return of slightly above 26%. So again, we take the cash flow here. It's pretty much a neutral cash flow investment. But very important to note that no money comes out of your pocket every month. Your income, the rental income, covers the expenses. But with pre-construction condo investment, we all obviously want to look at the principal recapture and the passive appreciation. Again, gives a total return in year one of 26%. Guys, if you need more clarity, please shoot us an email at info@reccanada.com or feel free to call me directly at 416-999-8850. I look forward to speaking to you, and take care.
This has been an REC Canada production.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the REC Experience. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Click here to watch and experience more videos from REC.